I'm Brandy Fullwood, host of Seattle Eats, and on the latest episode, we give you the scoop on Seattle's diverse and delicious cold treat scene.
There's a lot more in the world of cold treats than just ice cream. Bingsu, kakigori, shave ice.
We'll tell you about the ones you are gonna want to try this summer. Listen to Seattle Eats on the KUOW app or wherever you get your podcasts.
Welcome to Meet Me Here, KUOW's arts and culture podcast. I'm Jeannie Yandel. Do you have a little voice inside of you nudging you to do something creative or unexpected, maybe even a little bit wild? Artist Tininha Silva has that voice. She makes artwork deeply inspired by the seaweed, barnacles, and driftwood on the beaches of Port Townsend, where she lives. And you can see an installation of her work this weekend at the Seattle Art Fair at the Lumen Field Event Center. Tininha moved to the Pacific Northwest from Brazil, where she grew up, went to law school, and met her American future husband. After she got to the Northwest, she opened a bikini shop in Fremont and started to design swimsuits herself. She remembers when she first drove a carload of fabric to a factory, and she started to tear up right there in the car.
I saw myself crying because I was feeling really emotional in a really happy way. I felt like, oh my gosh, this is so creative, and I'm feeling like butterflies in my stomach in a good way. Like, I want to be doing this for the rest of my life.
That voice was talking to her then, telling her she was on the right path. Tininha moved with her family to Port Townsend in 2018, where her husband grew up. Their kid was in preschool for the first time, and Tininha sat down with some tea and her phone and found a photo of a tiny weaving on Pinterest. She said, I need to try to make this. This is really cool.
It's funny. I had some yarn from my studio in a box, and I had to dig for that. And I didn't have any loom, so I looked for a piece of cardboard around the house, and I cut it. And as I was like wrapping it with yarn, I remember 4.5 hours going by, and it felt like a half an hour. It felt like it went so fast. When I saw it was time to pick up my kid, and I had to stop, and I didn't want to stop. So I was kind of fighting with that feeling like, oh my gosh, this is so good. And I don't want to stop, but I have to take a break and go pick up my kid at school. But then when I thought about it later, I was like, what was that? Mm-hmm. I sat down, 4.5 hours flew by, and I made something really sweet that when my kids got home, they were like, Mom, this is so cute. I want one, make another one. And I remember that week, every day after dropping him off, I would come home and make a new one.
Oh my gosh.
And because they're tiny, it was so like, oh, this is quick. This is very fulfilling. And it felt very meditative. So it clicked right away. I remember my neighbors offering me yarn, like, I have a lot of yarn for you. And the beautiful thing about Port Townsend, almost everyone is an artist. People like to knit, people like to weave, people like to sing and cook. And it's just, there is this really vibrant, artistic vibe in the air. I remember feeling very welcome when I moved here, and my neighbors, and friends, they were like, we have stuff for you. You want to go big, you should go big, and then let's have a first show, and you have to open an Instagram account. And back then I hesitated because I didn't have one. My friends were like, no, you should open an Instagram account and show your work. And everything happened so fast. And I remember a year later, I was sending, tapestries to Australia and many other places around the world. And it felt really wild.
Well, I want to ask a little bit about your process. I know that a big part of your process is walking along the ocean every day. I mean, if Port Townsend is a place where art is everywhere, it's also a place where the ocean is everywhere.
It's the peninsula here, right? You're pretty much surrounded by water and beautiful boats and seagulls and all that. It feels very dreamy in many ways. the stimulation. I feel like it calms me down, it clears my mind, and going for daily beach walks is it's so healing because all your senses, the air, the smell of the wind, and the sound of the waves, and all the beautiful things you see just laying on the shore from high tide the next day. Everything is, the composition is totally different because with every high tide in the morning, it feels like there's this fresh start. Like all the rocks are assembled differently, the driftwood and the giant tangled the bull kelps, everything is laid differently by nature, and just as stunning as the next day, but definitely different. And so you get to see things you didn't see the day before, and all that is really inspiring because it's easy to walk by on the beach and pass by all these little things and not pay attention. But if you really stop to notice, there's a lot of beauty hiding in the little details.
You've told me before that when you walk along the ocean, you are looking for treasure. You're actually looking down rather than like looking at the horizon.
Yes.
What's a treasure for you?
Treasure for me, it's something that can make me smile. So let's say I'm going for a walk and I find this random barnacle, right? Like, I mean, look at this shape, right? It's like if it gives me a feeling like, oh my gosh, what is this?
Will you describe the barnacle for our listeners?
Yes, so there are two barnacles together as if they're twins, right? And the cavities and the shades between white and soft gray and dark gray, um, it still smells sweet like it's fresh from the beach and it carries that for a long time. I don't know. I feel like when I see something that I feel like I have to hold and it makes me smile, that equals treasure. If I feel tempted to put in my pocket, definitely a treasure.
Yeah. And that barnacle is small enough to fit in your pocket, it looks like.
The barnacle is small enough. It's funny because there are some beaches here in Port Townsend where you are not really allowed to, collect things.
Right.
But here, I live in North Beach, and so the beach here, it's more flexible, it's more casual.
How do you think those little barnacles that are together, I mean, they're smaller than your hand. They fit in the palm of your hand, basically. How will those show up in your work, do you imagine?
What gives me inspiration? I don't even know exactly. It's more of a feeling than the shape itself. I don't like my work to be very descriptive of what gave me the inspiration because I like it really abstract. Sometimes the work will resemble lightly something, but hopefully nothing specific because I like that people develop their own stories about my work.
We'll talk more with artist Tininha Silva right after this break.
Why is healthcare so expensive in the U.S.? How is my credit score calculated? Does immigration enforcement actually reduce crime? We all have the big, complicated questions we're curious about, and that's why we made Control F. Control F is a podcast from KUOW that explains how the world works using data. Each episode, we break down the numbers driving culture, the economy, and politics. Join the search. Listen to Control F wherever you get podcasts.
Tininha, I want to talk about the installation you're creating for the Seattle Art Fair. And for listeners, the Seattle Art Fair happens from July 23rd to July 26th at the Lumen Field Event Center. We'll have a link to that in our show notes. But you keep talking about the feelings that you're trying to capture with your work. And I'm wondering what you want your audience to feel. Because this installation, like all of your work, is inspired by the driftwood and seaweed and shells and rocks and all of the other things you find on the beach. And people will literally be able to walk through your suspended pieces of art at the Seattle Art Fair.
That's the idea. I wanted people to feel like they are within a small landscape, right? Like they're walking through the pieces and they're sensing the pieces from every angle possible. So I can't wait to see actually the whole thing hung myself because for me it's a first. right? Having a suspended installation. So I'm really excited to see what it feels like. But that's the feeling that I want people to experience, is that they are walking, they're immersed in water or walking on a shore. As you asked, the inspiration for this installation, it's called Between Tides, because that's my lifestyle. On a daily basis, I go for beach walks and it's low tide, and I can walk with my dog. And it's wonderful because, I get to see in detail and up close all these elements, the seaweed and the kelp. And then high tide happens towards the end of the day or midnight, and then the next day everything is just freshly rearranged. And I find a lot of inspiration in that. And I was like, it's a little bit about life, like, every day is a fresh start.
I'm getting the sense that you very much trust your process. What is that thing inside of you that both drives you and allows you to trust an uncertain process?
I think trusting the process really is something I have developed in the past few years, because I remember at the very beginning, I undid a lot of my work.
Really?
I feel like, yes, I would spend hours on doing. So I feel like my work is, because it flows intuitively. If I'm having a bad day and I am anxious and I need my meditative time, and I walk into my studio and I start working, I will leave my studio feeling awesome, like renewed and, like calm and happy. And then I walk away, and then I would come back the next day and I would be like, what was I thinking? What is that I just created? It's not light enough. It's dark. I can tell I was not feeling well. And so I would, undo my work. And then after years, I have learned how to embrace that section and not undo it. And I have learned that I don't need things to be perfect in any way. And so embracing imperfection was a huge part of trusting the process. I think time really took care of all that, because I've been doing this for long enough that I have learned the different outcomes. If I freak out and undo, I can redo. But also, if I learn how to just accept and keep going, and take a different turn the next day and make it brighter or lighter, it works as well.
There's such a loving way that you talk about your own process and what it means to be creative. And you've mentioned the voice that has told you to keep creating, to keep trying new things, to make something with your hands. What do you think that voice is?
When I went to law school and I graduated, that voice was present back then, but no, it was telling me, this is not your path. You gotta find another way. And when I started working with my hands, that voice was really loud and present as well, and telling me, keep going, this is the right path for you. I feel like we all have that voice, and a lot of times we just, the outside, the society, everything is so loud. But if we all really stop to listen to that voice, it's very easy to recognize, because it's really attached to a feeling, right? If you're feeling good, then that's all that it's the voice to say, that's the right path. Keep going. There's no elaboration within the voice. It's very basic. It's like, good, not good. Recognize what's good. Like every time you feel good about something, pay attention to that feeling and trust it. And then when you feel like something doesn't feel quite right, and it gives you anxiety and you feel unsettled, trust that as well, and maybe try to find another path.
I am sure I am not the only person listening to you right now thinking, oh, I know when my voice inside myself tells me I'm not feeling good, that I'm feeling anxious or nervous about something. What advice do you have for someone who recognizes that they are struggling with that feeling, like that they're anxious about something?
Anxiety, it's something I have dealt with my entire life. And I feel like most people really deal with that on a daily basis. They barely ever talk about it, right? It took me a long time to discover that working with my hands was the most healing thing I could ever do for myself. If I could tell other people, find that one thing that you can do with your hands, that will be the best therapy of your life. Like you'll chase any anxiety away.
Tininha Silva is an artist who lives in Port Townsend on the Olympic Peninsula, and you can see her latest work, an installation that you can walk through and see from all sides at the Seattle Art Fair. That's happening here in Seattle from July 23rd through the 26th, and we will have a link and more information in our show notes. I think also in our show notes, we are going to have a little how-to for how to make your own little loom out of cardboard, if you are so inclined to give that a shot.
That's a wonderful idea.
Thank you so much, Tininha.
Thank you so much, Jeannie.
Thanks for listening to Meet Me Here. Meet Me Here is produced by KUOW, a proud member of the NPR network. It's hosted by Katie Campbell, Dyer Oxley, and me, Jeannie Yandel, and it's produced by Kyle Norris, Brandy Fullwood, and Matt Martin. Phyllis Fletcher is our editor. You can find out more and support the show at kuow.org/meet. And if you're enjoying Meet Me Here, let us know. Rate and review the show wherever you listen. It really helps. If you have an arts and culture event you want to tell us about, email us at arts@kuow.org. That's arts@kuow.org. I'm Jeannie Yandel. See you soon.
I'm Chris Morgan, host of The Wild. Over the last 35 years, I've worked in the wildest places on Earth, tracking tigers in Siberia, filming orangutans in Borneo, following humpback whales, migrating jaguars, iridescent hummingbirds, and learning from the people devoted to protecting them. These stories changed how I see the world. I think they'll do the same for you. The Wild with Chris Morgan, available wherever you get your podcasts.